What is up, Insaners, and welcome to another video of the Fantasy Premier League 2021-22 season. Today we'll be talking about the best wildcard and free hit drafts for the double game week 29. Why and who should use these two chips this week? We'll deep dive into the best and worst case possibilities. Guys, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure that you hit the like button. You can also consider subscribing if you're new around here. Now let's start with why you should wildcard in game week 29. Now guys, there are a few reasons in terms of why you should use your wildcard in game week 29. The first one has to be changing your team structure, guys. Now in case if you have a lot of money invested in certain positions like the defense, maybe midfield or even attack, and you want to change that structure, you want to change those funds, then using the wildcard chip is really helpful. Also keep that in mind, if you want to change at least 7 to 8 players, maybe even more, then I think a wildcard makes more sense rather than taking a lot of hits to get in players who will be already owned by a lot of managers who might not even take a hit for them. Not taking any hits and directly getting into your wildcard will save you a lot of points, guys, and it will surely give your rank a huge boost. Now another reason could be taking advantage of the double game week 29. As you already know, guys, game week 29 is a huge double game week for a lot of teams. So let's say if you don't have the likes of Liverpool players, maybe even Arsenal players, or you want to jump onto Tottenham assets who are quite fancy at the moment, I think pressing in that wildcard button and going heavy on these players should be the focus. And it's also the right strategy, guys, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of upside in Tottenham assets, especially if Tottenham do well. Now, if Tottenham don't do well and if you have a lot of players, then I think you might be in a little bit trouble. But I think in general, a lot of people are already taking hits to get in the likes of Son, Kulusevski, Kane, even Doherty for that matter. And I think you could be at an advantage here. Also, if you don't have triple ups on, let's say, Liverpool, or let's say, for example, Arsenal players who also have a fixture in game week 30, then I think this is also a decent week to play your wildcard. Now, I think another reason that you should probably wildcard or think of using the chip this week is future planning, guys. What's your plan for game week 30? Do you have a team set for game week 30? Are you looking at the double game weeks in 33, even 36 for that matter? I know it's a lot early to kind of think about 33 and 36 at the moment, but I still feel if you're planning a little long term, and if you're not planning to use your free hit chip in game week 30, you can very well balance out a team for 29 as well as 30, and then you can focus on the game weeks beyond that. So guys, these were the advantages in terms of why you should use a wildcard or what benefit will you get when you use a wildcard in game week 29. Now, what could be the downside here? I think the downside to a wildcard this week would be that you might not be able to play your triple captain chip in case if that's still left. You might not be able to triple captain Salah, who I think a lot of people would be triple captaining this week. Now, triple captaining would kind of give you an advantage, some extra points for that captaincy. Let's say if you go for Salah or maybe even Kane for that matter, and you can only use one chip in a particular week. So if you use your wildcard, you won't be able to use your triple captain chip. Same goes for the bench boost, guys. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of teams on Twitter or in the FPL community, they are playing their bench boost because they have a decent bench. Maybe they have a couple of double game week players, maybe one, and they have some decent single game week fixtures and players having those fixtures, and they are playing their bench boost chip in this particular week. So if you play a wildcard, again, you won't be able to play your bench boost chip. So overall, I feel it's very team focused, it's very team dependent. If you want to change a hell lot of players from your teams, I think the wildcard is a decent strategy to go for. It might not be the ideal one, to be very honest. A wildcard in 31, maybe even later, could be a lot better. But that's just me, right? In case if your team needs a wildcard, in case if your team needs a lot of work, then wildcard is a decent bet to go for, guys. So just follow your gut and go for that wildcard. Now let's quickly get into the wildcard draft, the first wildcard draft for game week 29. So in this draft, guys, we've gone for Ramsdale as a keeper, who's still a very decent option to go for if you're looking at long-term fixtures. He also has a game in 30 and he plays a double game week in 29, and long-term fixtures are also decent. So I think Ramsdale is a decent option to go for. The second option is a bit cheaper. We've gone for Foster here. If you want, you can attack the double. You can probably go for someone like a Dubravka. But again, you might not be playing Dubravka over Ramsdale. So that doesn't really make sense in the long term. In terms of a defense, we've gone for a Liverpool double up in Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, guys. It's a very strong Liverpool double. Both defenders have a huge attacking upside. They're quite attacking when it comes to going forward, putting in crosses, getting in assists, creating chances. And I think you're going to get a lot from the Robertson-Trent combo. there's still some advantage to be gained here because I see a lot of players, a lot of teams trying to go from James or maybe a Rudiger to a Robertson and taking hits for that. So in this case, you'll be at an advantage. The other two playing defenders are from Chelsea and Tottenham, guys. From Tottenham, we've gone for Doherty. I'm still not sure whether he's nailed in terms of the double game week and even beyond. But I think he's their best attacking wingback at the moment. I don't think so Conte is probably going to bench Doherty considering how he's performed in the last 2 to 3 games. His numbers have looked okay. He has a lot of attacking threat going forward, guys. And even if Spurs don't keep a clean sheet, which again I'm not very confident of, I still feel he can give us some attacking returns. The other defenders like Dyer or let's say like someone like a Reguilon for example, they're not that attacking. I mean Reguilon is still decent, but he's not really done enough going forward, and I feel Doherty is a much better pick. If you're okay and willing to take that risk, I think you should definitely go Doherty over the others. Coming to a fourth defender, we've gone here for Rudiger. I see a lot of people also going for James, but James is injured. Again, it might not be a very long-term injury, so if you want to probably take a chance, you can, and you're looking at a long-term transfer, you can probably get in James instead. James definitely is the better FPL asset, guys. He's probably not going to play as many minutes as Rudiger, considering that he's kind of going on and off in terms of injury. With Rudiger, I think you're going to get more starts, if not all starts. But I still feel if you're looking at a long-term pick and if you only have space for one Chelsea defender, depending on how you play, whether you want to play it safe, you can go for Rudiger. If you are okay benching, let's say like a James for this week, and you probably are not going to get a fixture in game week 30 either, and 31 he might be back, in that case, James can also be fine. As a fifth defender is keeping the free hit in 30 in mind. With this team, you're not really required to play the free hit in 30, and that's why we have Amartey as a very cheap fifth defensive option. He's one of the cheapest defenders in the game, guys. Yes, he's prone to rotation. Let's say if Fofana comes back in the squad, I'm not sure Amartey is going to get starts, but maybe he's just an option, just a cheap option to kind of cover up your bench and maybe even get out a fixture in game week 30. Now, an alternate strategy here could be to go for someone like a Ben White, who's a lot safer in terms of starts, but again, he doesn't really have any attacking upside. He's not going to give you any attacking returns. You're mostly banking on the Arsenal clean sheet, which might not be that straightforward in game week 29. Of course, if you're not planning to free hit in game week 30, you get an extra fixture from White as opposed to someone like a Rudiger, for example, and that could also be a decent strategy depending on your overall strategy for your team. Now, coming to our midfield, we have Kulusevski in terms of the Tottenham attacker, guys. We've not gone for Son here because we have Harry Kane in our team, and getting in Son would have kind of disturbed the structure of the overall team. I still feel Son is the better FPL asset. Of course, it's probably unfair comparing a Kulusevski to a Son, considering that there's a huge difference in terms of the price. But for the sake of the comparison, if you are looking at numbers, if you are looking at underlyings, it's a lot closer than you probably think. Still, at the end of the day, Son is way better in terms of creating chances, in terms of overall numbers, I would say. But again, he's also coming at a very higher price. So would you really want to spend, let's say, about 4.5 million more for a Son when you can get a Kulusevski in? Now, if you want to play safe, I think Son is the option to go for. But Kulusevski could be a decent punt. He could be a decent cover-up for Son, and I think he's pretty much nailed in that Tottenham lineup, guys. I don't see anyone, let's say like a Lucas Moura, taking his place because Kulusevski gives a lot more in terms of the footballing perspective rather than just the FPL terms. Now, coming at the other picks, of course, we have Mo Salah in our team. He's also the captain of this particular team. Of course, you can go for a Harry Kane as well, but Salah definitely remains there. We again don't have to talk a lot about Salah. Now, other picks include a Saka, a Rafinha, and a Barnes, all in the 6 to 7 million price bracket, guys. All are very good options this week. Saka has a double game week. He's a standout player for Arsenal. He's a standout attacker. I think a lot of Arsenal attack, in fact, most of the Arsenal attacks would be going through Saka, and he's playing really well at the moment. There's absolutely no harm in jumping on the Saka train, guys. I think he's the best Arsenal attacker, and the fixtures from an attacking perspective for Arsenal, they look still decent. And I'm pretty sure Saka can get a few attacking returns. Plus, he also has a fixture in game week 30, so you are at an advantage here. Rafinha, I agree, he's not been that great. He was a big disappointment in the double game week, last game week. But this week, he's facing Norwich, guys. They're the worst team in the league. They have the worst defense in the league. And I think Rafinha, even an out-of-form Rafinha, could still do well against Norwich. The fifth midfielder or the other punt that we've gone for is Harvey Barnes, guys. We've got him a week early as opposed to probably a lot of people would be doing. I think he's a great option for game week 30, but we've got him in a week prior because we're also planning to keep him for a longer term, and the wildcard really helps us do that. Now, of course, if you are planning to play a free hit in game week 30, you probably don't need a Harvey Barnes. Now, in that case, you could probably go for some Newcastle attackers. You can probably go for a Willock. Maybe Fraser is the better option right now, considering that he's getting more chances. He's creating a lot more than Willock, who's probably solely dependent on goal threat. Now, Newcastle has a double game week this week. Again, it's not the most easiest double game weeks out of the lot, but I still feel it might be worth the punt. The third option could be saving some money and going for a Gordon from Everton. I know you probably won't fancy an Everton midfielder, an Everton attacker, but I still feel there could be some value in the 4.5 million midfielder from Everton. Again, you're not spending a lot of cash, you're not really going out there to get him, and I think he can easily sit on your bench for the tougher games. Plus, I feel Everton would definitely be having at least 3 double game weeks from 31 to 37, and I think having Gordon in your team for the longer term, that might still be okay. It's a tricky call, and I think depending on what you want to do with your fifth midfielder, you can go different ways. Now, in terms of our attack, guys, we've gone for a strong attack in Kane, Lacazette, and Broha, guys. Now, Kane is pretty much set and forget. I think he's a very good option. He's also a great captaincy and alternate captaincy option this week. Plus, I think he's a prime captaincy option in game week 30, guys. He's been in great form, he's shooting well, he's finishing well, his numbers are also quite decent since Conte has taken over, and I think the old Kane, he seems to be back. If I have to rate all the Tottenham assets, I think I would still rate Kane the highest because there's a lot more potential for him to explode. In terms of the other attackers, we've gone for Lacazette, who's also a decent option. It's more of a punt, to be very honest. Now, some people might be put off his price because he's a lot more expensive than what he kind of delivers in return. So if you probably don't want to go for him, that's absolutely fine. But with this Arsenal attack, with the double up in the attack, I think that's going to be a huge differential. I feel a lot of people would already be having a Ben White, maybe a Tierney, maybe even a Gabriel, for example. And let's say a double up on the Arsenal defense. With the wildcard, you can actually differentiate yourself, and you could attack the double game week with a Lacazette and a Saka combination. Our third option is Broha, guys, who's also a decent option this week. He's playing Watford, who've looked really bad in defense. And more often than not, if the fixture is tough, he's very cheap, you don't have to spend a lot, and you can easily bench him for the tougher games. Now, very quickly, let's get to the second draft here, guys. In case if you are not comfortable with Amati, you can also go for a Kilman, for example, maybe even a Size if you have money. I know Kilman was benched, but I think he's probably going to start more games than you think. And I still feel he's a decent option to go for. Now, this particular team, this particular draft is very good if you're not planning to play a free hit in game week 30. Now, the main differences for this team is that you have a Ramsey instead of a Rafinha, guys. Ramsey is playing in game week 30. He has a fixture in game week 30. Of course, he's nowhere close to a Coutinho in terms of what attacking returns he can get. But I think he's again a very cheap and a safe option to go for. You're not spending a lot of money. And when the fixtures go tough, you can probably switch to a Gordon, especially when the Everton double fixtures are announced. In the attack, we have Wang, guys, who also could be getting a little more minutes now. And at that price point, guys, I think it's a decent option to go for. He's also giving you a fixture in game week 30. Plus, Wolves' fixture are not that tough. And I think he can still do some damage with that differential category, guys. Now, both these drafts do not have a lot of money. In fact, they have no money in the bank. But again, there are multiple options that you can go for. You can switch certain players in midfield. You can switch certain attackers as well, depending on whether you're using a free hit in 30 or not. So guys, these were our top wildcard drafts with or without the free hit in game week 30. It depends on your team strategy and you can go for whatever you like. So how do you find these wildcard teams? Do let me know in the comments below. I would love to know your thoughts. Great, now let's talk about the free hit draft and who and why you should free hit in game week 29. Now, as like the wildcard, guys, you have multiple reasons to free hit in game week 29. And the first reason would be, let's say if you don't have a lot of double game week players, you probably are struggling with, let's say at least 2 or 3 maybe, and you want to get in more. Now for that, you might have to take a lot of hits. A lot of people would already be having these players. So if you take hits, it's probably not going to give you that much of an advantage. And in this case, you can actually attack this particular game week and you can get in a lot of double game week players by using your free hit. It's also a great strategy. The free hit chip is a great move. If you're looking for short-term gains, let's say if you're looking to capitalize on the Liverpool triple ups, on the Arsenal triple ups, let's say if you're not very confident on the Spurs assets, you probably want to give it at least a couple of more weeks before investing in them. I think this is also a great strategy. You can get in on the free hit, you can use your free hit, get in all those players without the worry of keeping them next week. Another very important factor is that if you have your 2 free hits available, let's say if you're not planning to use your free hit in game week 30, which might not have that much of a higher upside as compared to 29, I think you can easily use your free hit in game week 29. Now, if you compare both game weeks, I think 29 is a way better game week to use your free hit than 30. 30 has only a few fixtures, there's not a lot to gain because every teams are playing each other, and you're probably not going to get a lot of FPL points in general. Great, now let's look at a few free hit drafts that we have today. Now, there are multiple ways to do your free hit drafts, guys. This one in particular is quite attacking, guys, because it focuses on a Spurs triple attack. I know you might be thinking that this is absolutely crazy. We are investing 3 players, 3 attackers in Spurs who are so unreliable, they're unpredictable. They might do well one week, then they might just lose their thing next week. Now, in defense, we've gone a little bit cheaper. Of course, we've gone for a double up in Robertson and Trent. I think that's a really good combination. The other 3 defenders are quite cheap. I think most of them are in there just to kind of save in some money. And of course, we can play Holgate, who has a double game week. Now, Everton, again, they don't have a great double game week. They're struggling defensively. I'm not expecting them to keep any clean sheets. But I think that's the kind of sacrifice that you will have to take if you want to get in Son and Kane along with Salah and Lacazette in your team. In general, I think this looks like a very good squad, guys. I think it's quite differential, it's quite attacking. You also have Gordon as a good differential, a 4.5 million value player. Plus you have Lacazette as well. And I think the Saka-Lacazette combination, as I just spoke about a little earlier, that's also very strong. Now quickly coming to the second draft, guys, this is a little more balanced with single game week players as well. If you notice, the first draft, it didn't have any kind of single game week players, but this draft is kind of a mix of single game week players along with double game week players. We have a combination of Kulusevski and Kane in this one, guys, along with Doherty. Going for a Son in this particular case looks a bit tricky, and because we've spread the cash here. We've gone for single game week players like Havertz, guys, who did really well last week. I think a favorable fixture against Newcastle this week as well. There's a potential to get a huge haul from Havertz as well. Apart from that, we have Broha here, who again, you could play against Watford. I think it could be a decent fixture, but you can easily bench him considering that he's very cheap. In defense, we've also gone for target guys. Again, you can go for a Shah, for example. If he's considered fully fit, I think he's probably a better option to go for. But I think it kind of covers the Newcastle defense as well. There's a lot of money lying around and we can spread the cash. We've also upgraded our second keeper and we've had Dubravka as the second free hit keeper here. Now quickly coming to the third free hit draft here, guys. This is a combination of Kane and Song along with Doherty here. Now this has a stronger backline because it has Doherty, it has the combination of Robertson and Trent. It has Son, Saka, Rafinha, Gordon and Salah in midfield, which is like a very strong midfield here. We've not invested a lot of money in our third attacker because we kind of need money for that Son move. So we've gone for a non-playing third attacker here because anyways we're probably going to play a 3-5-2 formation. But this squad, this also looks pretty good. Coming to our final and the most differential squad that we have in our free hit here, guys. We've gone for a slightly change in formation as well. We could play an easy 4-man back in this particular team with an Arsenal defender here as well. Now if you notice, we've not gone for Ramsdale in goal, we've gone for Dubravka because there could be a chance that Gabriel might just nick in a goal from a header, from a set piece, and you could take advantage of that. From a clean sheet perspective, I think the kind of odds are quite similar. Ramsdale of course could give you some save points, which Gabriel of course won't be able to give you, but I still feel with that kind of a goal threat, Gabriel might still be okay. In this draft, we've not gone for a Liverpool double up because we have a Liverpool double in Salah and Mane, guys. That could be very explosive. I think it's going to be a huge differential as well because most of the people on a wildcard, maybe even on a free hit, would be going for that Trent and Robertson combination, and you can differentiate from the crowd here by going for Salah and Mane. Of course, to compensate that, we've gone for Rudiger, who also has a decent fixture. He got rested in the last game, but I feel that he's going to start against Newcastle, and that could be a clean sheet. Coming back to Mane here, guys, I think he's probably going to start both games. I think the best Liverpool trio, the best combination at the moment is Mane, Salah and Diaz, and I think Mane definitely gets both games. We know that he can outscore Salah on certain occasions as well. We know that he has goals in him. He has the creativity as well. I think the Salah-Mane combination could be really lethal. So guys, these were our free hit drafts and the strategy behind the free hit chip. Do let me know what you think about it. So that'll be all from my side, guys. I hope I was able to give you some clarity in terms of your wildcard and free hit teams if you are using a chip in Game Week 29. Do smash that like button if you enjoyed today's video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Now we'll be back for the deadline stream for Game Week 29, so do look out for that. Till then, keep tinkering with your teams, and I'll see you insaners next time.